Okay. So today we're going to practice the reading section. Yesterday we finished looking at the different question types we have in the reading. We saw all of them, the 10 different question types we have in the reading. So today we're just going to dedicate to practice, and we're going to, be working on a different set. Look. Okay, guys, so I just sent you the link for the reading passage that we're going to be working on today. It's about smart energy. So I want you guys to please open that link. Everybody open the link. Basically, guys, I want you to do what we said we were going to do. Right now, you should know what to do in this first part. You should use about 2 to 3 minutes in order to scan very quickly the text. You don't need to read everything carefully. You're just supposed to look and try to search for the main ideas in the text. All right? You're just supposed to try to understand what's going on in general as a whole. And second thing, what I told you and the tip that I gave you was to maybe take a little bit or pay a little bit more attention to the introduction and conclusion, which are the first and last paragraphs. And second, maybe what you could do in order to understand the main ideas of each paragraph was to read the first sentences of each paragraph, right? And that was going to give you an idea of what each paragraph was about. So I will give you guys 3 minutes to do that, and then we will start answering the questions. You guys, have you all been able to open the link with no problem?
Excuse me, everything fine.
Okay, perfect. So go ahead, please. Okay, guys. So can you tell me a little bit what this text is about?
I need technology to generate electricity.
Okay, great. It talks about a new technology to generate electricity, which is called smart energy. Right? So you probably what you were supposed to do at least was to read a little bit of the information. Sorry guys, if you can. Okay, guys, sorry. So as I was telling you, if you read the introduction or at least the first sentences, you know that it talks about energy supply, right, and energy use. And it says that the next decades, there will be some changes in the way that energy supply is used. And they start talking about oil producing nations and how there's going to be a switch to a low carbon economy. They talk about the changes in the supply and use of electricity, and they start listing them because you have the words firstly, secondly, okay. And then they start talking about, in this paragraph, they talk about, they describe how this energy works or how this technology works, right? Because it talks about the application of a computer system. So it describes, it's a description of how it works. If you read the first sentence, then you should know that just by reading the first sentence, because it talks about what it involves. Now, the second paragraph or the second body paragraph talks about the benefits to the consumer. And you should know that just by reading the first sentence. So that's all you have to do there. And then they talk about the challenges for this smart technology. So again, if you just read the first sentence, then you already know what this paragraph is about, and you can move on to the next one. Then they talk about a second problem is the fact that many renewable power generation sources are located in. So they continue talking about problems with this smart energy. And then they start saying you should pay more attention to this paragraph. This is the conclusion. And it says, although smart technologies is still in its infancy, pilot schemes to promote and test it are already on the way. Consumers are currently testing the new smart meters. So basically, I think it talks about the implementation of this new smart technology, right? How there are some pilot schemes going on right now, how people are testing it. They start talking about how this technology will be implemented, most of all. Okay, guys? So that's all you should do. You don't need to read everything. You're just scanning the text, looking for the most important ideas. And that's all. All you guys need to do in your 3 minutes that you have to do this. Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions so far? All right, guys. So let's start answering the questions. Let's start seeing what those are. And you already know the strategies for each question type. So I really hope that you guys are able to identify the different question types and to remember what strategies we used for each, because that's what today's class is about, to practice what we were doing the past few days. So Alejandro, please, do you mind reading the first question?
James, according to paragraph 1, what has happened in some oil producing countries?
Thank you so much. Do you guys know what this question type is? A detailed question, because it's asking about a detail, something specific, right? What, when, why, where, how, for how long, who, all of those are detailed questions because they're asking about specific information. What has happened in these specific oil producing countries? So I want you guys to take a look at paragraph 1, you got the text, and tell me what you think. What option would you choose? So what do you guys think? What option would you choose?
I think it's option B.
Does everyone agree? Is it option B? So basically, the strategies for detailed questions were to first identify what the keywords in the question are. In this case, they're asking about oil-producing countries. Those are probably the keywords because they're asking for what happened in those countries. So we're gonna find any information that we have on those countries, oil-producing countries, according to paragraph 1, the first one. So we start searching for those keywords or their synonyms. And as you guys can see, it's in the first, well, the second sentence, right? Look at how you have synonyms. You won't always have the exact same words. So instead of countries, you have the word nations, which is the same at the end of the day. So in some major oil producing nations, this is totally gonna be the keywords. What has happened is that peak oil has already been reached, and there are increasing fears of global warming. That is what has happened in these oil producing countries. Then they say, consequently, many countries are focusing on a switch to a low carbon economy. And then they start talking about the transition and the changes that this will signify. But at the end of the day, this is everything that we need to know. That is where the answer should be, right? So we analyze that again. So what has happened is that peak oil has been reached, and they're increasing fears of global warming. So they are switching to a low carbon economy. So if we start looking at the options and trying to find the one that is closest to what we just read, it is going to be option B. I do agree. Why? Because they said that the peak oil has already been reached. That means that the maximum point of production of oil, the point where they produce the most oil in their history, is already past. It's already being reached. So that's already in the past. That means that they are not at their peak right now, right? They are not producing as they used to. They're not producing as much as they did one day when they were in the peak oil, right? They're not producing as much as they used to, and also they're switching to a low carbon economy, right? So that's why option B is the one. The other ones are not related. They are unwilling. Unwilling means they don't want to sell their own anymore. This is too extreme. I don't know if we talked about this, but one of the most common traps is to have extreme options. So they don't want to sell any oil anymore. So not any, they won't even sell a little bit of oil, which is not true, right? Too extreme. The supply of oil is unpredictable. They don't talk about the supply of oil, right? They talk about the countries and what's happening there. And there's nothing that says anything about how the supply of oil is. And then they say global warming is more severe here than in other countries, which is not true. This is false information. And this is the other very common trap, which is including familiar words and familiar sentences, because they talked about global warming. However, what they said in the text was that there are increasing fears of global warming. That means that they are more and more scared of global warming every time. So they are getting and getting more scared about global warming. Now, that doesn't mean that global warming is more severe there, right? To try to think of it like that would be to draw an inference, to make a conclusion. But you guys don't have to make any conclusions here. You're just supposed to stick to the information they give. So in this case, nothing says that the global warming is more severe there. So there's no reason for us to believe that, right? So yes, option B. Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions so far? Okay, guys, perfect. Now the second question, Rosario, can you please read the second question?
Or paragraph 1 and the television. There is also a big part of electricity of household and opportunity to install photovoltaic cells and small space wind turbines.
Okay, thank you, Rosario. By the way, the link that I just sent is the link for the document where you have the text. You can search the information there. Now, this is an insert text type of question, right? Remember that you get one sentence and you have to place it in one of the boxes. So that's what you guys have to do here. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes, 1 or 2, to tell me what you think to get to an answer. Okay. So what do you guys think? Where can we place this sentence here?
The option C.
Okay. Do you guys agree, Alejandro, sorry? Okay. There's something wrong, by the way, with your audio. I don't know. I can't hear you very well, Rosario. I don't know if something's wrong with your microphone, but it's like you're far, far away. Okay, guys. So remember the strategy for this question was to first read the question, read the sentence, of course, understand what it's about, what the main idea of the sentence is. In this case, they're talking about that there's going to be more generation centers, right? So the main idea here is to explain that there will be a generation center, more generation centers. And then they explain the reason why, right? Why? Because household and communities take up the opportunity to install photovoltaic cells, but that doesn't really matter that much. The important thing is always going to be the main clause, which in this case is that there will be more electricity generation cells. So then you go to paragraph 1 and you start reading around until you find one that talks about something similar. So in this first part, they don't talk about anything related, electricity generation centers. Then they don't talk about anything like that here. Now here they are starting to talk about power generation, how it's generated, and they talk about electricity generation from renewable sources. So this is related, right? This sentence is completely related to generation centers because they talk about power generation and where do you produce power? Where do you generate power? In generation centers. And then they say to meet these challenges, okay? And so this is not related. They talk about challenges. And then they talk about providing the electricity industry with a better understanding of things. So I guess it does have to be close to this sentence here. Now the question is, where do we place it? Now, if you realize our sentence has this word that is also, right? Even though it's not a transition in itself, it's a word that shows the relationship between ideas. So you know that this has to be an addition of something. Therefore, it has to be an addition of the sentence that is related to that. It has to be an addition to this sentence. It can be before, right? Because it's firstly, secondly, also. So yes, I totally agree that it's option C. Well done. Okay, guys, let's do question 3. It says, which of the following is not a benefit of a smart grid technology to consumers? You will now have a couple of seconds to try and answer this question. Okay, guys, so what do you think? What is not a benefit of smart grid technology to consumers? What do you think the answer is?
I think that it's the letter D. It can reduce the amount of energy needed to power appliances.
Okay. Can reduce the amount of energy needed to power appliances. Yes, do you guys agree, Luis Alejandro?
Yes, miss.
Okay, good. So what paragraph talks about the benefits of a smart grid technology to consumers?
Second,
Okay, good. You should know that because when you read in the beginning, that's what you did, right? You identify what part each paragraph was about. So they're asking for what is not a benefit of this technology to consumers. In order to find the one that's not, you first have to eliminate the ones that are benefits to consumers, and you need 3 of them. So you go back to the paragraph, and it says, it offers benefits to the consumer too. They will be able to collect real-time information on their energy use for each appliance. That's one benefit, to collect real-time information on their energy use, which is basically option B, right? It can tell them how much energy each appliance is using to collect real-time information about the use of each appliance. So yes, they collect information. Then they say Varying traffic through the day will give customers the incentive to use appliances at a time when supply greatly exceeds demand, leading to great reductions in bills. That's its second benefit. And it is option A, right? So option A is a benefit. We eliminate options A and B then. Then we continue reading. They say, for example, this is an example of the previous one, so we don't have to read it. Then they say smart meters can also be connected to the internet or telephone system, allowing customers to switch appliances on and off remotely. And that's gotta be the third benefit. Allow them to turn appliances on and off when they're not at home or remotely. So the only one that's not is, as you guys said, option D. It doesn't reduce the amount of energy needed to power them. Well done. Now, question 4 says, according to paragraph 4, what is the problem with using renewable sources of power? So take a look at paragraph 4. What do you guys think? Okay, guys, this is another detailed question, so it shouldn't take you too long. The answer is usually a detail. You know, it's in one specific part of the text. So what do you guys think? What option would you choose?
The letter D, they often cause system failure and blackouts.
Okay. Do you all agree?
Yes, miss.
Okay. So the question is, what is the problem with using renewable sources of power? Probably our keywords are going to be problem and renewable sources, right? Renewable sources of power. So renewable power, renewable sources of power. We're looking for the problem related to using that type of sources, those type of sources. So they start talking about, okay. Do they say the paragraph? Oh yes, they say according to paragraph 4. Right, so we can go back to paragraph 4, which is this one here. And we start looking for the keywords, right? We start looking for renewable sources. So these are the keywords, sources of renewable energy, because it was renewable sources of power, right? Something like that. So it's a synonym. Energy is a synonym for power. Renewable sources is the same. And we start looking for problems. We have a synonym, challenge, same thing. We continue reading to see if there's another one. We have energy here, but it's about the supply of energy, right? Alternative sources. We have the word sources, but they are talking about alternative sources here. Okay, so we start reading. The first problem, the first challenge involves managing the supply and demand. Sources of renewable energy, such as wind, wave, and solar, this is what we care about, are notoriously unpredictable. And nuclear power, which is also set to increase as nations switch to alternative energy use sources, is inflexible. Okay, good. So they're asking for the problem with sources of renewable energy. What is the problem? They say that they are notoriously unpredictable. That is the problem, guys. Because then they start talking about nuclear power, which is an alternative energy source, but it's not a renewable energy source. It's not the same, right? They say that nuclear power is inflexible. Then they start talking about oil and gas, which is not related. And then they continue talking about alternative sources. So what you guys said, that it may lead to blackouts or system collapse, it's not related to sources of renewable energy. That's about alternative sources, and that's not the same. They are talking about nuclear power here. So it's difficult to deal with alternative sources because it may lead to blackouts or system collapse. But remember to always stick to the question. The question, what was the problem with renewable sources of energy? These are our keywords. And remember the tip that I gave you first class for the reading part? In the tail questions, the answer will always be in one specific small part of the text, close to the keywords. So this is the answer. The problem with these renewable sources of energy is that they are unpredictable. And therefore, it's hard to manage the supply and demand. Now we start looking at the options. Which one do you guys think now would be the one?
The first one, Miss, they don't provide much energy.
Okay, they don't talk about the amount of energy they provide. They talk about the fact that the energy they provide is unpredictable, right? Wind is unpredictable. Solar energy.
So it's C, Miss. They don't supply a continuous flow of energy.
It's a synonym for unpredictable, right? Because the opposite of unpredictable is predictable. That means continuous. So they are not continuous, right? Because it depends on the weather, for example, in renewable sources of power. So the problem is that they are not continuous. They don't have a continuous flow. They are unpredictable. They're not, you don't know how much energy one day you will have, right? It's not that they don't provide a lot of energy, but that they don't have a continuous flow of energy. Now, option B, as I told you guys, was related to other alternative sources, not renewable sources of power. So look for the keywords, and most of the time, 90% of the time, the answer will be really close to that. Okay, so you didn't even have to read much. You just needed to find the keywords and start reading around. You find this information, that's all you need. You guys, careful there. Any questions so far?
What is the meaning of blackouts?
Blackouts is when the power goes off, when there's no electricity.
Okay,
Like
thanks, Miss.
in Spanish. Any other question? Okay. Now, question 5 says, in paragraph 6, what can be inferred about cities in the future? So I'll give you guys some time. Let me know what you think. Okay, so what do you guys think? What can be inferred about cities in the future?
Option C.
Option B, Miss.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, with the inference question, questions, if they work differently, because the information won't be there. You have to, or it at least won't be explicitly there, right? It will be implied, perhaps, but it won't. There won't be a phrase that says what you're looking for. So they just asked for what can be inferred about these cities in the future, paragraph 6. So in order to draw any inferences, we first have to start looking at what we know, what is said about cities in the future, right? That's the first question that you have to ask yourselves. Before asking yourselves what can be inferred, answer the question, what is said about cities in the future, in paragraph 6. So let's answer that question. We look for the keywords. This is the keyword. There's nothing else, right? So cities are prime candidates for investment into smart energy due to the high population density and high energy use. The first thing we know is that cities are good candidates, prime candidates for investment into this technology, right? So probably they're going to be using the smart technology soon. They're going to be investing in smart technology. It is here where smart technology is likely to be promoted first. Okay, that's another interesting fact. They say that the first place where smart technology will exist will be cities, utilizing a range of sustainable power sources. Okay, there will be sustainable power sources because that's smart technology. Transport solutions, okay, so transport is going to be a little bit different maybe, and an infrastructure for charging electrically powered vehicles. So there's going to be one place where you can charge electrically powered vehicles or cars. Now, the infrastructure is already changing fast. By the year 2050, changes in the energy supply will have transformed our homes, our roads, and our behavior. This is not related to cities anymore, right? I think this is just a conclusion. So this is what we know about cities. Now we start looking at the options to see which one makes more sense. More people will living in the cities in the future than nowadays. I mean, maybe we don't know, but there's nothing that proves this point. There's nothing we can use as evidence. The only thing they said about cities related to this is that there's a high population density in cities, but nothing is said about how people will react to the implementation of smart technologies in cities. Nobody said anything about that, or the changes in population. So we don't have enough evidence. Option B, people in cities will be using cars and buses powered by electricity. Yes, because they said that there will be an infrastructure for charging these cars, right? So if there's an infrastructure for charging vehicles or cars and buses that are powered by electricity, that must mean that there will be cars that are powered by electricity or electrically powered vehicles. It's the same. So yes, we can totally infer that there will be cars and buses that work with electricity, because there will be an infrastructure for charging them. So there must be cars. Now, all buildings will generate their own electricity. I don't know. They don't talk about how buildings will work. They talk about the fact that they will generate sustainable power sources. And they said that the energy supply is going to transform our homes. But they don't talk about buildings, right? They don't say anything about buildings here. So we don't have enough information to prove that buildings will generate their own electricity. Smart grid technology will only be available in cities. That's the classical extreme option, right? Will only be available in cities? No, they will first be available in cities, but not necessarily only in cities. So well done. Option B was correct. That okay? Do you have any questions so far? Okay. So question 6 is a vocabulary question. It says, the word remote in paragraph 5 could be best replaced by. So they're asking about one specific word in paragraph 5. I don't know if it's highlighted. Should be. Yes, it's here. So I will give you guys a couple of seconds. You don't need too much time for this one, but I'll give you about 1 minute. Tell me what you think.
Letter A.
Yes, Miss, I agree.
Okay, perfect. Did you know the word or did you try to guess from context?
For my part, I know the meaning of B, C, and D, and I know that it wasn't, but
Okay,
I really don't know the meaning of A. I
Okay.
mean that it's like alejado, probably, or something like that.
Yes, remote. Yeah, remote is something that's very, very far away from the city, right? From where people live. So yes, it's an isolated place. Now, if we start looking at the context, it makes a lot of sense. See? Because what do they say? How does this word contribute to the idea in the text? It says they are talking about a problem with this technology, and they're saying that renewable power generation sources are located in these remote areas. So they say that it's a problem that these power generation sources are located in these remote areas. So that's one thing that you could ask yourselves. Would it be a problem if these generation sources would be located in, and you start looking at the options, right? In an attractive area, in a lone area, that doesn't make too much sense, right? In a lone area. So you start playing with the words like that. You continue reading and it says, such as, and this is a great thing, and you need to make sure that you always check whether you have this or not when you're answering these vocabulary questions and you don't know the answer. If you guys have examples that help you big time understand the meaning of the word, because you guys have examples of what remote areas are. What are examples of remote areas? Windy uplands, coastal regions, places where there is currently a lack of electrical infrastructure and where they have to build new infrastructures. So that is the context. We start asking ourselves, so is a windy plant or a coastal region a crowded place? Definitely not, right? It's not a crowded place. Is it an attractive place? Maybe, yes, but would it be a problem for power sources to be located in attractive places? Not really, right? But windy uplands are located in isolated places, places where there's no people around, where there's no, they also said there is no infrastructure for electricity, right? There's no electrical infrastructure. So we're looking for a place that has no electricity. It has to be an isolated place, right? That's how you can analyze the context of the word. Then we have question 7 that says the word underway in paragraph 6 is closest in meaning to. So take a look at the word. Let me know what you think.
Letter D.
I agree, Miss.
Okay. So do you know the word? Did you see it from context?
No.
Didn't know.
Yes, I knew the word.
Okay. So yes, underway means in progress. It's like on its way, right? Underway, halfway through, it's in progress, it's happening, but it's not complete. And it's not like um, completely started. So it's something that has already been started in a way. And if we look at the context, let's see, they say, although smart technology is still in its infancy, pilot schemes to promote and test it are already underway. Consumers are currently testing the new smart meters, which can be used in their homes to manage electricity use. There are also a number of demonstrations being planned to show how the smart technology could practically work, and trials are in place to test the new electrical infrastructure. So that's the context, right? And I think that's everything we need to know because they first of all, something that also helps, same thing as examples with these question types, is this type of connectors that show contrast, that show addition, that show evidence, that show cause and effect and cause. So in this case, the word although means contrast, right? So when they say, although a smart technology is in its infancy, that means that it's not starting yet. They say pilot schemes are already underway. So pilot schemes are already happening, are already in progress. They're not in its infancy, they're happening, right? They're in progress. And they start talking about how they are testing the smart meters, how they are having demonstrations or planning demonstrations, how they are having trials. So yes, it's something that is happening right now, but it's not complete and it's not started. I mean, it's not, and it has started already. It's not related to beneficial. It's not complete. Permanent is not related. So yes, it had to be option D, in progress. Hold on. Now question A says, what is the main idea of the final paragraph 6? What do you guys think? Give you a couple of seconds, tell me what you think. So what would you guys say?
Maybe letter D.
Yes, miss.
Right. So yes, right, I think we talked about, or you should have known that letter D was the answer even before reading again, because you already read a little bit of the conclusion in the beginning, or you already have an idea of what this was about. And yes, it talks about the implementation of a smart grid technology. It talks about how this technology will be implemented in layers, in quick win methods. They talk about where, in cities first. They talk about when, by what, in how many years. So yes, it does describe how, where, and when smart technology will be introduced, will be implemented. Yes, and finally, in paragraph 6, what can be inferred about the introduction of the smart grid technology? Same paragraph. So what would you guys say? What can be inferred?
Letter B, Miss?
The cheapest technologies will be introduced first. Do you guys agree? About the introduction of smart grid technology. So if we search for that, they say, okay, it is likely that this technology will be added in layers. So it's not going to be all at once, it's going to be in layers, starting with quick win methods, which will provide initial carbon savings, to be followed by more advanced systems at a later date, right? So it will be introduced in layers. They will start with quick win methods. Do you guys know what quick win means? Does anyone know?
It's like los métodos más seguros, los ganadores.
Exactly. So it's like the safest ones, right? The ones that you know that it's gonna be a success, where it's gonna be a success. So quick win methods that will provide initial carbon savings, to be followed by more advanced systems at a later date. So how do you know, or what tells you that the cheapest technologies will be introduced first? How do you know that it's about the price? Or what tells you that the cheapest ones will be introduced first?
For me, it's more like a discarding because first says the quick methods will be first, and then the most difficult technologies or the advanced systems. So the C and D, it's not. But in the A and B, the technologies which produce most benefits will be introduced first. It's not like they didn't they don't mention about the benefits like that. So I associate that if it's the quick win methods, it's more like the cheapest.
Okay. The quick win actually means, as you said, right? Like the safest option, the ones that you know that where you will have success. So quick wins doesn't necessarily relate to the price or to the economical part, but it's more about going for the safest option, going for the easiest option that you know will produce benefits, it will be a success, and that it will also be easy. So in this case, those quick wins are technologies that produce the most benefits in the beginning. Because even though they talked about carbon savings, they're not talking about money savings, right? They're talking about carbon savings. So they don't say anything about the price, but they do say that they will introduce the quick wins first. So the things that in which you can win quickly, right? I think it's kind of like that. So in which you can have a lot of benefits in an easy way. So yes.
But Miss, it's like it mentioned the quick win methods and the advanced system. It not suppose that the advanced systems will provide more benefits between them.
Well, not necessarily. The more advanced systems are probably going to be the hardest ones to implement. But nothing says that those more advanced systems bring more benefits, right? Or there's at least not enough information to prove that those more advanced systems will bring more methods will bring more benefits than the first ones. I mean, it may be from our way, but there's not enough information to prove that.
Oh, okay. It's kind of tricky, right? Because I don't know if I assume that I have to infer, it's like, I don't know, I infer that the advanced systems has more benefits. We will probably could be.
Yes. Yeah, it is a little bit subjective in a way because at the end of the day, anybody can infer many things. So it's about choosing the one that is the most supported by the evidence in this case. So in this case, because of that expression quick wins, so those quick wins produce benefits. And it's an easy way of producing benefits in a way.
Yes, I think that my problem is like this super words. I mean that you said like must benefits that put more strong in the sentence and probably had more objections about the sentence.
Okay, so yes, like the extremes, but this is not an extreme, right? Because most is not an extreme. The technologies which produce all of the benefits would be an extreme. Right.
Okay, Miss. Thanks.
Yes, of course. Do you guys have any other questions before we go? Okay, guys, so please, before you go, don't forget today's daily survey. And I will see you all next class.
Miss.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, Miss.
Bye.